Americans tend to have like this guard, which you need to survive. Being able to shake that off when I came to Japan, it allowed me to figure out who I really am. And secondly, what I want to build creatively instead of thinking about like, you know, is this guy going to jump me? Like, it's the first time I felt real freedom. And she was like, you'll never make it in Japan because you're a foreigner. It's difficult even for Japanese people. You can't make it. And I was heartbroken in a way, but also like, damn, I'm gonna show you, you know, like, because obviously she wasn't correct because I made it.
Before this episode with Matt even begins, I want to tell everybody about an exclusive Live in Tokyo merch giveaway happening with today's sponsor, Itoen. If you guys have been watching the Live in Tokyo series for a while now, you've probably noticed that Itoen has been a sponsor. They've been a great sponsor. I genuinely do appreciate them. And I do really love their tea. This is their Oyocha tea. I really do drink this pretty much every day, but don't just believe me. Believe everybody else too, because this is Japan's #1 green tea brand. Currently, Itoen is also expanding their YouTube channel, so as a request from them and from me, go over to their channel, click subscribe. It's going to support not only Itoen, but it will also support this channel and this series as well. All right, now let's talk about the merch giveaway. To be eligible for the giveaway, you need to be a USA, Japan, or Canadian resident, and you could get either this Live in Tokyo shirt or Live in Tokyo tote bag. These are exclusive just for this giveaway. Also, Itoen has their own merch, including this shirt, their tote bag, and they have things like this Itoen Oyocha-kun plushie. To enter, all you have to do is subscribe to Itoen's YouTube channel. Go to any of the latest Itoen YouTube videos and comment maxdcapo sent me. Itoen will select a random winner over the course of the next month, and I will announce it on my X and Instagram, so make sure to follow me there as well. All the details are going to be in the description box below, and guys, I can't tell you enough how much this Live in Tokyo merch and Itoen merch is very cool. I am very excited that 3 people are going to be winning this, and I am very thankful for all of you watching and supporting this series, as well as Itoen. Shout out again to Itoen for sponsoring this video.
Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Matt Cab. どうもマットキャブです。日本在住、サンフランシスコ出身、音楽プロデューサーです。Moved to Japan, Tokyo, 17 years ago. I've been grinding and living life ever since there in Tokyo, and it's been a crazy adventure. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. And I've known you for about 10 years at this point, now that I think about it.
Wow, that's crazy.
Anyway, we want to delve into some of your come up in Japan, as well as where you started. Obviously, you're from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
You're the first Filipino-American I've had on this channel.
Yeah.
Most people are Japanese, but you've lived in Japan so long that I really think you have good insights to give to people who want to move here.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it feels almost like I've lived 2 different lives. It was from like birth till age 20 was in San Francisco, Bay Area. That was like one world, very a unique way of growing up. And then all of a sudden it's just like boop, like teleport, and the second half of my life now in Tokyo. So it's like 2 lives in a way, and I'm still trying to process like what that has been like.
I definitely want to talk to you about that, because I feel like, you know, we both went to Sophia University too, which is an experience of its own. It's just completely different college life. Actually, fun fact, one of the first interviews before this became even a podcast, thanks to you, I filmed with Miyachi for, I guess it was about 3 or 4 years ago.
That's crazy, because it seems like a year ago, but
I just wanted to give a quick shout out, because that was my first experience in a studio as well, and you and Miyachi made the Famima Rap.
もうレジェンド曲になりました。I'm thankful to be like a part of that, and you and Kai, like, you know, are the unsung heroes from that session. But
yeah, there was a little backstory on your channel, my channel, and Kai's channel of us, you know. All me and Kai did were we just sat there.
People got to check it out though, because I think it's still like a little bit underrated. You know what's crazy, bro? That was so spontaneous. Like, we didn't plan that at all. We just had that interview set for that day.
Yeah.
And we were like, ちょっとお腹空いたからコンビニ行ってくるねって言ったら, I was like, oh shoot, this the jingle? Yeah, that could be a song.
So speaking of Miyachi and working with a lot of huge artists here in Japan, you worked with BTS, right?
Yes, yeah. I made 2 songs for BTS. One's called Good Day and one is called Wishing on a Star. And that was like before they blew up, you know, globally. I didn't know who they were yet,
No
to be
way.
honest. And my manager was like, "Yeah, we got a offer from this Korean group. Do you want to take it?" And I was like, I don't know. Kind of busy schedule right now. I was like, oh, they'll fly you out though. They're flying you out to Korea, and it's just gonna be a quick like recording session. I was like, okay, let's do it. Turned out to be like 2 of the biggest songs of my career. So, you know, you don't say yes to everything, but you got to have an open mind and see where things take you. Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's actually probably going to be a theme of today is like you being open to a lot of things and coming to Japan and ended up staying here. You even have a family, you raise your kid, you're raising your
2 sons.
2 sons here. So I feel like you have to be open to a lot of things.
I thought it was going to be 1 year only. like just like 留学生として1年だけ just like, oh, okay, study abroad for a year, experience another culture. And I didn't think I would be like, you know, fully migrating.
Who else have you worked with in the music industry? Just to like, if you could just name a few.
One of the first big ones that really helped my career was m-flo. And they're like legendary. Shout out to m-flo, Verbal, and Takusang. Those guys like really changed my life. So I'm sure you guys have heard that song, the Tokyo Drift song. Verbal is one of the original members of Teriyaki Boys as well, but his main group is m-flo, which is him and an extremely talented producer DJ named Taku. And they're a little bit older generation than us, and they are kind of like the first bilinguals who really like set it off in Tokyo and made it okay. They kind of like were the pioneers of this, speaking both English and being international, but being Japanese at the same time. And they were so successful and really took off. So if not for them, man, like I don't think any of us would be here. So shout out to them.
Just for me to add on, I would agree because when I first came here, the only real bilingual musicians like them were, it was m-flo, Crystal K.
She's a homie of mine as well too.
And you made a song music with her as well.
Yeah.
And Utada Hikaru.
Yes, yeah.
I feel like they were when we were in high school, like they were kind of doing it.
Right.
Before, we even came to Japan.
This is a generation where we still downloaded their music or had CDs or like LimeWire.
The good old LimeWire days.
Yeah. I would be in the States. I'd like type like Japanese music and they would come up.
That's like all you could do. Japanese music.mp3.
Yeah. So it's so crazy because I'd known about them in the States just like as a middle schooler, high schooler.
What year was it? We're gonna age you a little bit here.
Jesus, this is like 1999.
You're 37.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Dude, you don't look it. You honestly do not look it.
m-flo, they really helped change my career path and open the doors for me in the Japanese music industry. But the way that all happened was like a scene out of a movie. And I was already like working as an artist, singing a bit, but nobody really like knew who I was. I was at this club in Aoyama, I think, like this osharena. It's not there anymore. Like, it's gone. I remember I was just like at the bar. This American guy came up to me and he was like, "Hey, you're Matt Cab, right? I work with this group in Japan and they have a studio. You should come for like a studio session." I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, "All right, cool, man."
You're like 20 at this time?
I was like 22 maybe. I remember going to Shibuya to this like little small studio like alleyway, and the elevator doors open and out comes like Verbal, and he was looking like fresh, and then we just worked on a song. A couple days later we got a call from Verbal's team, and they're like, "Oh, Verbal really liked like what he heard from like the session that you guys did and would like to invite you to be on m-flo's next album. They're like gonna go on a national tour and we would like you to be like a part of it." And I was just like, "For real?" Oh damn. Mama, I made it.
It's like,
but like, like at the time, I was trying to be cool with it. And like, "Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much." Like, you gotta act like you've been there, right? The crazy thing is like that type of thing, thankfully, like continued to happen for me. But I also had like challenges where I had to get over those humps because like I was in the States trying to learn Japanese in San Francisco. And I remember going to this like social event and it was like Japanese music industry night at this cafe. in San Francisco. And I was like, well, that sounds interesting. So I went. And one of the people that was there was like, apparently she had worked with before, like as a writer. But at that time, I like went up to talk to her and I was like, oh, I've heard you, like you've worked in the Japanese industry. Like any recommendations? And she was like, you'll never make it in Japan because you're a foreigner. And I was like, oh,
What
okay.
the hell?
Yeah, just like, bam, like straight up. Like there's no, she was like, it's difficult even for Japanese people. You can't make it. And I was like heartbroken in a way, but also like, damn, I'm gonna show you, you know? Like,
Yeah, fuck.
Because I have that side of me. If she had never said that to me, maybe I wouldn't have tried as hard. But it still mind boggles me that people can say these statements to other people with 100% certainty without knowing like if it's what it's going to do to them, or like knowing if you're correct, because obviously she wasn't correct because I made it.
Yeah, let's go.
But I don't know, call it your like American chip on your shoulder, like I'll show you attitude, right? But that mixed with like the open-mindedness and like positivity, those combinations like really helped me to plow through, you know, keep going.
Learning to speak Japanese like Matt is not only a great skill, but if you're ever planning to visit Japan, it will definitely make your experience much better. And that's why I wanted to tell you guys about today's sponsor for this video, Migaku. Alright, so Migaku is a language learning platform, but it's not just any regular language learning service. Migaku actually makes learning fun, unlike some boring old textbook. You can learn languages with Migaku from the content that you already love. So that's Netflix shows, even YouTube videos, and even manga. To break it down for you, Migaku helps you read the original Japanese text and then provides you pronunciation help and English translation. Migaku's got a browser extension and mobile app which helps you get instant translations, create flashcards with a single click, and tracks your progress easily. Even when I was learning Japanese, I would be watching TV shows or anime, and I would just take my phone notes app and I would just be putting the Japanese words with the English translation. But Migaku can help you do that and more. What truly sets Migaku apart is its comprehensive courses featuring structured lessons that guide you from beginner to intermediate levels. Migaku is also offering a special 50% discount on lifetime access, so get this opportunity while it lasts. All information to Migaku is linked below. Make sure to check him out. And once again, thank you to Migaku for sponsoring this video. Well, yeah, and you came from the Bay Area, so like you're from, you know, West Side.
Right. That was my experience of America from 0 to 20. So coming to Japan was almost like, in a lot of ways, just like bursting this bubble of like identity for me. And I got to explore, I guess.
I kind of want to ask, how much was that, seeing that culture in Japan, like cool versus cringe?
For me, it was cool because I tried to tend to see things like from a positive aspect, right? I don't really see it as like, oh, you know, you're being disrespectful to culture, or you're out of pocket. You know, like this isn't like, what are you ripping off like another culture for? But that's also like my mindset as a creator, right? I like seeing the good in something and then kind of infusing it with my own style to become something original, which is like Family Mart, like the sampling and stuff. That's what like my creative mindset is. And that's what Japan is good at, I feel too. They don't realize, I don't think Japanese people and Japanese culture realizes how much they sample things, you know, from other cultures. Like look at katakana. And like it's just everything is sampling. And I could see that in Japanese culture from like right away. Like even in anime, you know, there's so much sampling.
You're saying sampling as in not just in a music sense, but you mean just like they'll take something and then make it
their
Japanese.
own, right? And make it Japanese. And like I was like, oh, they're good at that. If it's respectful and it's like out of the intention is like love for the culture, then there might be some like misguided times as well. But overall, I think it's like it's beautiful, right? You respect and love this culture, so you're trying to express yourself within it, which is kind of like what we all do. Like I'm Filipino-American, right? So I was born and raised in the Bay Area, but both my parents immigrated from the Philippines in their teenage years. So like I know Filipino culture, but I've never been to the Philippines. So like all I know is like American culture and what I saw on TV. And like you kind of input that into yourself and output it in your own way. And that's what like sampling is.
What did people think you were when you came to Japan the first time?
I guess like for me, I know that I'm Filipino-American, but I look very racially ambiguous, don't I?
Yeah, I honestly thought you looked like The Weeknd the first time I met you. And you're
every
like,
day someone's like, you look like this, you look like this. Like, I guess there's a lot of people who I look like. I don't know if that's what that means. I thought it's interesting though, because like coming to Japan, I feel like was the first time people just saw me as like American, right? Like when I was living in San Francisco or the Bay Area, it's always like, oh, you're this kind of American, like you're Asian American, you're Filipino-American, you're African American, you're Latin American. I felt even more segregated in the States, right, where I'm from, technically. But once you come to Japan, like you mingle with other foreigners, and you're all just like foreigners. You know what I mean? It's like the community, and like to Japanese people, you're just like, you know, American. And for the most part, it's like really positive. Like, oh, it's like he's American. So in that way, like you sometimes see, I wanted to address, like you see, like, is Japan like a racist country? And from the most part, from my perspective, my experience, I would say no. There's been times where I felt discriminated against, but for the most part, it's mostly like innocence and open and love for like other cultures. So I just wanted to put that out there. But it to me, it was super, it was like a pleasant surprise though, you know, like how open people are to other cultures. And like the akogare, especially like as an American, right? It's like, oh, America, Tupac, Biggie, like, you know, like oh, Kanye West, tomodachi.
No, it's like, but you're almost like, maybe. In a way, I think Japan, you will be lumped into being like foreigner, which I think for the longest time, people really didn't like that.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, this is actually kind of like a nice bubble to be in, like the gaijin internet. Well, I feel like there's a few bubbles. There's like the foreigner bubble, then there's like the bilingual crowd,
right?
Which probably you would fit in.
Yeah, like Sophia, where we went to school, for example. That was a good place for me to get my intro to Japan too, right? Because there are a lot of people like us, like international, and also people who are half, right, and who have both identities culturally. So it's like a nice buffer, right?
It's the buffer.
Yeah.
Wait, are we the buffer crowd that like helps
transition the bridge?
We're the bridge. Right. Yeah. How would you explain the duality of your Japanese side and you American side?
Well, let me start with saying this. I came to Japan at age 20, and you know, that's like the age where like young men are like, you know, have a lot of energy and you know, there's a lot going on, right? And coming from like the background that I come from and being American and, you know, like a little bit street culture, right? Like I always felt, from my perspective, right, as Americans tend to have like this guard to them, which you need to survive in America, right? Because it's a really, when it comes down to it, I mean, people are super nice and friendly, but they can also escalate to like the other side of like aggression and defensiveness, right? So I had that part of me a lot. But like after coming to Japan, it was, you know, everyone says this. It's so safe here, you know? Like you don't have to worry about walking alone at night. I would have never walked alone at night in my neighborhood growing up in the middle of the night, like unless I wanted to end up, you know, in the hospital or dead, right? So it's a huge guard that like you have to have all the time, and it's exhausting to have that all the time. So being able to kind of shake that off when I came to Japan for the first time was just huge for me. It's like, and it allowed me to two things: figure out who I really am without that guard growing up, like in adolescence and as a teenager, right? And just being yourself. And secondly, creatively wise, right? I had so much more yoyu to be able to like think of like what I want to build creatively instead of thinking about like, you know, is this guy going to jump me? Like, you know, am I going to get mugged or like, is something about to like pop off walking past like these dudes?
Did that happen pretty often when growing up though?
Happened a few times. Yeah. Like that's the kind of I mean, I was pretty fluid in different cultures growing up. So you found me like hanging out with like all different types of people, and like that's how I grew up. So I've seen a lot of different things growing up in San Francisco.
The yoyu you're talking about, yoyu is Japanese for
leeway.
It's like leeway, or I know yoyu is like space basically.
Yeah. Room to breathe. And I didn't really have that in San Francisco, or like I almost felt like robotic in the way that like I was living everyday life to this thing.
Crazy how America is a country that's so free and
You
you
think.
can do everything. But sometimes a lot of people who come to Japan really find their true self
It's the
or
first time I felt real freedom.
right.
You
Wow.
know? Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah. But now that I've become Japanese in a way, 17年経って
Yeah, so
then I'm like, I want to get out of Japan and feel free because now I feel the other spectrum, the societal pressures of like Japanese life, which is a completely other side. I still can't wrap my head around
I
it.
relate hard because I need to get out of Japan every now and then. And
Yeah.
like when I'm in America, I do feel this other sense of freedom because there's so many people
Different.
and people really don't care
Right.
as much about others and
Yeah.
consideration.
Yeah, I go back to America. I'm like, oh, hey man, nice shirt. Like I would never say that like, in Japan, right? Like, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is funny because that's like the friendliness and like freedom to just say things, and people
Yeah.
have this idea of like, oh, freedom of speech or freedom
Right.
of speech.
But I realized though that you can't have both. Like that comes with both cultures. Like people compare Japanese and American culture all the time. And it's like, oh, in America it's so nice. They have small talk, right? And people are just so casual with each other. For that very same reason, a casual person could possibly shoot you. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like what? Like the spectrum.
You get
It's
small
crazy.
talk,
It's
but
like
you might
0
get
to
shot.
100. It feels like the Wild Wild West in a way.
It truly is. I feel like living in Japan, you really do start to look at America with the lens of America is the wild, wild west.
Yeah, it's really sad. Like that's a normal part of daily life. That's like, how can this culture where people say "How are you" all the time and you know care about others, people they don't even know, they'll do like favors for or like acts of compassion for people they don't even know, also be like the same place where you can have like your car window smashed in pretty much any time of day and everything stolen. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Like after coming to Japan, I started realizing that's not really normal or like that shouldn't be, that's not cool, man. You know, like what the
What
like,
the heck, man?
yeah, like, but it was normal to me back then growing up. Like, oh, this is what life is like. You got to watch your back.
It's almost the same difficulty of me trying to explain Japan to someone who hasn't been here from this US.
Yeah.
And like, I always just have to default to the phrase, things are different here.
That's what it is, though.
I always say also, like, when I take an airplane from America to Japan, it's not even a travel airplane. It's like you're like going to a different world.
I get you totally. Like every time I used to travel, I feel like I zoomed out like of my whole existence. Yeah, it's another dimension, man. Even I don't know if I should say this, but like you know, like even your preferences in women, like what attracts you. Like,
It changes
yeah,
by the culture.
right. Like you go back to America and like there's different things that you find attractive. But you know, these days I feel like because of social media, for example, like haircuts and makeup trends are pretty global these days. For example, girls or guys who back in the day I would have thought were like international are not international. They're straight up Japanese, but they've kind of adopted the look, the social media look, right? It's become more of a thing.
So, and I feel like if you really want to live in Japan, and I do say this, a lot of people I do come to Japan and don't get too deep into the culture or not learning the language, but I feel like if you can grow a lot because we're saying you almost found like a different side of yourself.
Yes.
Because you moved here and you learned a different language, where you might have this battle between like your American side and Japanese side. But if anything, that's like maybe better because now you can see things from two different perspectives.
Right. And to be open-minded, right? Like, because there are things that I thought in my younger days were like completely like, I'm right. You know, like, how could you see it like this? But now I'm like, oh, no, I was completely wrong. You know, and that being able to say, like, maybe I'm not right is a huge thing just for cultural understanding, right? Or like you said, not wrong, but different. Like there are different perspectives. It's not black and white. It never is black and white. If you have a strong personality, which can be great in some instances, but you don't try to come to Japan. For those people who are interested in coming to Japan, if you don't try to understand the culture in a deep way, like open-minded way, then you'll always feel antagonized in this Japanese society. And you always see that, like, there's those types of people who live here who is always like, why is Japanese society like this? I hate how, like, Japanese people treat me like this. And of course, we've all experienced that. And sometimes there's super unfortunate events, but taking it personally or not, and taking it with a grain of salt of that's the culture, I feel like you won't self-sabotage yourself as much. And you'd be able, that's why I've been able to be here for so long. Oh, trust me, some days I'm just like, what? Like, I want to like vent and talk about Japanese society and like what's wrong about it. But there's so many beautiful things too that I'm just like, last
topic, we've been talking for a while, but I think it's an important one. You have 2 sons. Take me through how you decided to want to stay in Japan to raise your kids, and what is it like raising children in Japan?
So the biggest thing, man, it's so clear, is the safety, right? That's like the number one instinct as a parent, is to keep your children safe. And going back to like some of the things we were talking about, like in the States, where it's just a normal thing for cars to get broken into, for people to get mugged, gun control and gun violence and all of that. Those are just gone in Japan. And that's like the biggest weight off your shoulders when it comes to thinking about like your children's safety and their not only safety, but like their ability to thrive within the culture. People ask me, do you ever think about going back to the States and raising your kids back in America? And I do, of course. My whole family is still in the States. So like I would love for them to grow up in that environment. But just the risks of like staying alive, first of all, right, is just, I mean, they'll probably be fine. I was fine. They'll probably be fine. But you hear these things and these things do exist. And it's like, why open that door to your children that they're your treasures, right? So it's just a no-brainer for me to continue raising them in Japan. And they still get all of the perks of living in like a first world society. And in that regard, Japan for sure. But I'm sorry,
go ahead. Yeah.
Now it's the other side of me, the American side.
Yes.
The American side is like, but obviously like individuality, we talk about the group mentality and being able to think for yourself. That side is one of the, I think, great things that like American culture kind of tends to teach you, to think for yourself. And those are things that like I and my wife included, we want to instill in our children, like while growing up in this respectful, safe society, but also, believe in yourself, your gut, and you are special. Because that's kind of an interesting thing, right? In Japan, you're meant to think in a way you're not special. Yeah. And in America, you're meant to think you're special, right? Like be special. It's 2 separate, like 2 completely different ends of the spectrum. So a healthy balance of both.
I feel like that's a good way to end this episode though.
Dude, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a blast it feels like therapy. I don't know if any of your other guests have said this,
I've
but
wondered
like
that. I've honestly wondered.
Because I'm always processing all this stuff still, right? And you don't really talk about this that much, and at least to Japanese people. I feel like the foreign side like tends to like share their experiences more about this type of thing. Yeah, it's important to talk about it. So appreciate you for doing what you do.
Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you
much.
in the next episode. Arigatou gozaimasu. Thanks, Matt. Now that you have all seen Matt's journey in Japan, I wanted to encourage you and remind you that you can start your own journey in Japan. And the best way to do that, I can't stress this enough, is to actually learn Japanese. It's very important if you actually want to come to Japan, and that's why I wanted to remind you about today's sponsor, Migaku. As I mentioned earlier in this video, Migaku is a great place to get started learning Japanese or many other languages. Migaku lets you learn languages from the content you actually enjoy. So think dramas, anime, manga, even Japanese TV like variety shows. You can turn all of it into personalized language lessons. So imagine just sitting down, getting ready to watch one of your favorite Netflix shows or YouTube videos, and now you can turn it into a language learning session. Migaku gives you instant translations, creates flashcards with one click, and tracks your progress, so you can always see yourself leveling up. This is probably one of the most fun and effective ways that you can learn Japanese from the comfort of your own home, guys, so I do really think that this is a great service. Migaku is also offering a special 50% discount on lifetime access, so get this opportunity while it lasts. Shout out to Migaku again for sponsoring this video, and don't forget to elevate your language learning experience today.